Hello, welcome to Mr. Hall's Storytime again. It is that time again. We're going to carry on the shrimp for our Friday special version of Mr. Hall's Storytime. Um, the last chapter was about Ben going back to school with his friends and showing them what he had got on his project and looking at everyone else's projects too. So the thing I wanted you to think about was what's going to happen next. We're probably going to have It's 30 pages, so probably, 40? 2 or 3 more reads, and then it'll be the end of the story. So how do you think the story might end? What do you think is going to happen next? Because it is coming to an end. Okay, so chapter 10. So the class settled down quickly. Everyone got used to their new room, their new books, and their new teacher. Ben was pleased to find that he had been right about Mrs. Freeman. She was not a shouter. She got a bit ratty sometimes, like the time when all the scissors went missing, but she was not a shouter. On Friday, she told the class that Ray Hatcher would be coming the following week. Suddenly, everyone was excited again. What would Ray Hatcher look like in real life? Would he like their projects? Who was going to go on the field trip? And what would they really be on television? Colin listened to the talk in silence, and then he wandered over to the projects table. His eyes swept over the work displayed and suddenly stopped at Ben's shells. He said, half to himself. Shells. Colin seems interested. They all gathered round looking at something there. The following Monday, Ben walked into the classroom and got the shock of his life. There was a crowd around the projects table. "They're fantastic, Colin," he heard Melissa say. He squeezed through the people and stood staring in amazement. There, right in the middle of the table, was a treasury of shells. There were shells which took your breath away. Huge shells, delicate shells, pearly shells, spotted shells, shells with spirals and horns and wings and teeth. They mostly, Ben knew from his books, came from warm blue distant seas. They had names like conch, Venus comb, nautilus, and they were all displayed on a smart wooden unit. Doesn't quite seem right. Ben kept staring. In one part of his mind, he was feasting his eyes on the glorious shells. In another, he was furiously working out what had happened. 2 days ago, Colin hadn't even got a project. He said he hadn't, and now... Suddenly Ben clicked. That was it. Now he knew what Colin had done. He'd just gone to the shell shop or somewhere and bought the most beautiful shells he could see. Colin hadn't done a wildlife project at all. He was a cheat. "Wow," breathed someone beside Ben. "These are amazing." "Hey, Cole," someone else said behind him. "You're bound to win with those." "Well, I don't know." Colin sounded smug, "but I must stand a good chance." Ben was hardly listening, he could only gaze. Suddenly he thought of his own collection. He glanced over. There it was, arranged in its shoeboxes and plastic trays, and somehow compared to this exotic display of Colin's, it looked childish, tatty and childish. He turned back to Colin's shells. They were shimmering now, and he realised he was very close to tears. Poor Ben. Chapter 11. "He's smaller than he looks on telly," said Kate. "No bigger," said Raj. "I reckon he's bigger." "He's not who I was expecting at all," said Spike. "I was expecting the other one." "Oh, Spike," said Kate. Yeah. Chatting away. Wonder what they're talking about. It was break time on a day of Ray Hatcher's visit. Dr. Hatcher had given a talk to the class on the rainforest, and now he and Mrs. Freeman were looking at the wildlife projects. He was amazing about the rainforest, wasn't he? Said Raj. "I never knew about those lakes in the rainforest," said Ben. "I'd love to see some of those birds," sighed Kate. "To think of all those animals becoming extinct," said Raj. They were silent. "We must save the rainforest," said Spike. Everyone looked at each other. "Spike," said Kate, Yes, said Spike. For once, Spike, you're absolutely right. Ben gave a sigh. I think he's wonderful. Who? Said Raj. Dr. Hatcher? He certainly knows his stuff, agreed Kate. It's not just that, said Ben. He's wonderful. He's not all out for himself like some famous people. He really does care about wildlife. How can you tell? Said Raj. Ben thought, then shrugged. Oh, I just can. Suddenly there was silence again as everyone looked towards the classroom. I wonder how they're getting on, said Kate. He's probably decided by now, said Raj. Oh, said Spike. I wonder who it is, said Raj. Bet I know one of them, said Kate. Yes, said Spike. There was thoughtful silence. I'd love to go on that field trip, said Raj. Me too, said Kate. Me too, said Spike. Me too, thought Ben. He had always liked the idea of a wildlife trip, but now he had heard Dr. Hatcher talk and seen the fire in his eyes. He wanted it more than anything else in the world. What's Dr. Hatcher going to choose? Who's he going to choose? There's some wonderful work on that table. Ray Hatcher twinkled around at everyone. I've really enjoyed looking at some of the projects. It's so good to see bright young people take an interest in wildlife. He walked slowly over to the projects table and stood there gazing down at it. There was absolute quiet in the classroom. Then suddenly he looked up again and smiled. There's so much good work, it has been very difficult, but I finally decided on these. He leant forward and picked up Kate's project. These beautiful bird drawings. Ms. Freeman turned towards her and smiled. Well done, Kate. So she'd done it. Kate had done it. And she would go on the field trip. Ben glanced over. Kate looked pink with pleasure. Dr. Hatcher held up a few of the drawings and he and Kate talked about thrushes and blackbirds and their different calls. Then there was a pause, and then Dr. Hatcher said, I'm sorry, but I don't think this can really be called a wildlife project. Ben raised his head. Dr. Hatcher was pointing at Colin's shells. They are magnificent, but I suspect they were bought from a shop or collector. His eye ran over the display. I'm not saying you should never buy shells, but I think some of these may have been taken live from the sea. They all looked at him blankly. That means the animal was killed, so its shell could be sold. A murmur went round the class. Sometimes people cut the mollusks out, sometimes they boil them, and sometimes they hang them. The shell is hung up, so the poor animal just gets longer and longer, drooping down until it dies. Dr. Hatcher made a face. Not nice. Ben looked round at his friend's face. They clearly thought it was not nice either. In fact, that was putting it mildly. Ben glanced over at Colin. It was now his turn to look pink, and suddenly he felt a strange feeling. He actually felt sorry for Colin. Yeah. However, suddenly the twinkle was back in Dr. Hatcher's eyes. There is a wonderful collection of shells here, a collection into which someone has clearly put a lot of work, and I suspect a lot of love, and that person is my other winner. Who's it going to be? Ben! Mr. Freeman smiled at him. Could you come up, please? Up. He had to go up, but he was shrimp. Going up was not his sort of thing. There was no help for it, Spike. Spike grinned and rolled his eyes. As Ben stumbled forwards, he stood by his table, hanging his head. Did you collect all these shells yourself? Asked Dr. Hatcher. There was a pause. And in those seconds, something happened. And I'm going to stop there for now. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on Monday.